Good afternoon. This is Faceless Menace of the Backup Chargers today. I'm going to be talking about something that's kind of come up in some of my locals. Some newer players, even some more experienced players, have a little bit of trouble getting their head around, and that is the sort of phase known as PreRec. And we'll also be going into kind of the effect stack as well because they're very intertwined here. So the example that came up here was Luxem, because Luxem players love to play on everyone's every single phase. Because that is when they want to win the game, is whenever they have the highest opportunity. So what I want to get started on first is just kind of going a quick explanation on what prereq is. So prereq is what we refer to as just the actual recollection phase, because in Grand Archive there is the waking up. So all of your units that are rested would then go vertical again, so they can activate their abilities. They can rest for such, for attacking. Then you're going to materialize. Upon materialization, with whatever card you materialize on the stack, is the first time players have opportunity. That is sort of also thrown into prereq technically, but it's not the same. For example, with backup charger, get there in a second. After that card has resolved, and we go into the recollection phase, before the state-based action of picking up your cards from your memory and taking them back into your hand, players have opportunity to activate cards and effects at fast speed. Backup charger, what the channel's named after, is the perfect example for this. So after it gets materialized, once you go into recollection, frequently players will say, okay, well, prereq, pay 3, banish backup charger, I'll draw a memory, make a token. And then they'll move on with their turn most of the time. That's also the time to activate Terrafring. Terrafring can only be activated during an opponent's recollection phase. This is very important because it means after you see what they materialize, before they draw for turn. You have to get your timings very specific with this, otherwise you will get a judge call. Some other examples of this for actions that can be taken during prereq, especially with Xander here. Xander, for those that aren't familiar, the typical level 3 just says at the beginning of your recollection phase, you may reveal all cards in your memory. For each Luxem card revealed, each opponent puts a card from their hand down into their memory. So this is during your recollection. Your opponent then has to start putting cards down based on the number of Luxem cards revealed. And Luxem, most of the Luxem cards have effects that happen when they get revealed. The ones that don't are Excal, at least in this list, Striking Illuminance, and I believe that's, and Uncover the Plot. The cards that do, though, are pretty substantial. So Gleaming Cut is kind of the draw engine of the deck once you get to level 3. When it's revealed, you can banish it to draw 2. So it's effectively a +1 the moment you are able to reveal it out of your memory, which is huge for Luxem because one of their win conditions is just getting to 10 influence with 2 Lightweaver's Assaults. Lightweaver's Assault, when it's revealed, deals 2 damage to something. Importantly, it does not target. We'll get into that in a moment. And then we have Luxem Sight. When it's revealed, you recover 3, which is part of the entire surviving strategy. The deck list we're looking at today specifically, by the way, is Bob's Serene Fire Luxem Xander. He won the Nats over in the SEA region just a few days ago at this point. And it's a good list. It's a classic list. There's no fancy bells and whistles, to my knowledge. People say he high rolled to win. I say he had more skill. That's how Luxem wins. Better Luxem players will top higher because they understand the deck and they understand the effect stack and when to be able to do things. So now that we've gone over that, let's talk about the effect stack for a second. So let me get this out real quick. Okay, so this is a good example of what we're kind of going to be looking at for this. So with the effects stack, depending on what game you're coming from, this may be more or less familiar. So the less familiar effects stack, or sorry, the less similar effects stack, I should say, would be something like Yu-Gi-Oh! With its chains. So in Yu-Gi-Oh!, the way chains work is an effect goes on the stack. This is called Chain Link 1. If then an opponent decides to respond, this is now Chain Link 2. Then anything that happens afterwards would then be Chain Link 3, so on and so forth. And then once that chain is established, with spell speeds mattering and such, you resolve the entire chain. This is now one locked sequence. You cannot interfere with this. Cards will resolve exactly as they are in order. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has things called chain blocking, where you respond to certain things to make sure that your opponent can't respond in the right sequence. Grand Archive goes on the same way that a game like Magic the Gathering does, where they have just an effect stack. So let's say I'm activating Juggle Knives, and my opponent wants to activate Incapacitate to negate it. You can activate a Vanish from Sight, for example, if we're in the opponent's recollection phase, as long as we meet that condition. Or what you could do is let the Incapacitate resolve, for example. Juggle Knives still on the stack, although that's kind of a bad example here. Let's say instead of that, they're activating a Lightweaver's Assault. You could activate Vanish from Sight now, or you could wait for the Lightweaver's Assault to resolve to see what they actually go for damage. Juggle Knives is still on the stack, so after that resolves, you can then activate Vanish from Sight because there's still something on the stack. Both players have to basically resolve one card at a time. Nothing resolves until both players agree that one card or effect will resolve at any given time. Now, this is really important, especially for Luxem, because let's say we have this exact board here, or this exact memory with Xander level 3. Xander level 3 trigger in the recollection phase. One classic thing that happens is, let's say none of this is actually in memory. So what you would want to do to make sure you actually get your triggers off, let's say, okay, well, I'm going to pay 2, activate Juggle Knives. I now have these in memory. This trigger's still on the stack, so let's make a copy of this just to represent the effect. So this is the effect stack right now. Juggle Knives would resolve, drawing a card. This goes to grave. Effect still on the stack. If we had, let's see here, just going to grab a fast cure as an example. If we have fast cure, then we would put more cards down just to make sure that we're able to do things. So then we activate fast cure, effect still on the stack. Luxem wants to kind of play one at a time, especially when it comes to draw cards, because they want to have the most information available as possible. This is important for playing optimally, because that way you know exactly what's actually happening. If maybe I had to draw into that fast cure, for example, there's lots of things that might matter with that. So now effect finally resolves, reveal memory. Now this is where things get interesting, because now reveal trigger, you must fully resolve the entire ability. So your opponent would have to put cards down first, because we are still at the reveal all cards in memory. For each card revealed, their opponent puts cards from hand into memory. You don't get to reveal, and before your opponent puts anything into theirs, activate these effects and give your opponent info. Your opponent must put things down before they even know what order your effect stack is going to look like. So in a case like this, most likely you would then activate the Lightweaver's Assault first, that trigger on the stack. Then Luxem Sight and Gleaming Cut, technically these two don't really matter here. Board state also really matters for this. Get into that in just a second. The Gleaming Cut would happen. Draw 2. By banishing that. This deck is not shuffled, by the way. This is just a sample. The Luxem Sight would resolve, so recover 3. And then the Lightweaver's Assault would resolve. You choose a unit, deal 2. So when this goes on the stack, you don't target what you're actually hitting. You are instead choosing what you deal damage to upon resolution. So that means that your opponent has no idea what you're going to hit until this effect resolves. Same with the actual normal activation of this card of reveal everything in memory. Choose any amount of units and deal damage equal to the amount of cards revealed this way, split among them. This means that if you activate a Lightweaver's Assault, they have a board full of allies. They don't know if you're going to deal damage to their face or to their allies to clear board. They have to respond to the card as it is with that possibility there. That's why Lightweaver's Assault is such a scary card. It's very strong. And as you can see now, because of that Gleaming Cut, we went from 6 in hand to now, even after discarding cards, we now have, sorry, I guess we did have the 7. I cheated and added this fast gear here, but we have the 7 again. We would draw for turn. We have 8. These all get back to hand, and we have a whole bunch of stuff to do right now. Here's another example. We could have a Chalice of Blood here. Simplify things a little bit. Let's say for some reason we have 18 damage marked on us and a Chalice of Blood. If this is all we have and we're not in a especially tight spot, then one thing we might want to do is layer the effect stack a little bit differently. So instead of Lightweaver's Assault resolving last, we could put the Luxem Sight on there first and then the Lightweaver's Assault. Upon resolution, Lightweaver's trigger, 2 to ourselves. That effect is gone. Now we activate Chalice of Blood. With the Luxem Sight still on the stack, we currently meet the damage condition of 20. So now we'd be able to draw 2 cards off of this. So that resolves, draw 2, and then Luxem Sight resolves, recover 3. This is all really important for understanding not just Luxem, but how a lot of decks work. Another example, obviously we have the backup charger, we have Tengu. This all can be done during PreRec in the order that everything's going on. You get to choose the order for all this. You have stuff, let's say there's map's not a good example, Insignia, that's what I'm looking for. So Insignia lets you pay 3, put a prep counter on champion. If your influence is 6 or less, draw into memory. Drawing into memory is always the best when it's during PreRec, because that is the kind of least amount of time that it's just sitting there, the closer it is to being able to pick up the cards and actually use it. You're not wasting resources to have a card you can't use right this second is what I'm really trying to get at with that. If you're drawing 2 cards into memory at the start of your turn and you put cards down that doesn't really impact the board otherwise, then you could have held up those cards to at least bluff interaction. Insignia is really cool for doing that. Backup Charger and Tengu, just drawing into memory is really good, because if you banish them, draw into memory, we're obviously still in Recollection. Then at the end of Recollection, state-based action, grab cards, back to hand. That's the general gist of PreRec, Recollection, everything you can really do in there for the basics. There's not a whole lot else to say about it, honestly. Everything else plays out exactly how the rest of the game goes. The effects stack seems complicated at first until you realize, okay, you just slow roll things. That's all you have to do. Just make sure you go one at a time, especially as a new player. If you're not used to how things are supposed to be resolving, just take your time. It's just like learning any other skill. You just want to make sure you go one piece at a time. If you are learning guitar, you don't start out by, doing the solo riffs. At least not at full speed, you don't. You want to make sure you actually know what notes you're supposed to be hitting, where you have to strum, the rhythm of it, etc. So by taking your time, making sure you're actually able to think things out with this, then you will slowly become a better player. Along with that, read your damn cards. Please read your cards. Stuff like Lightweaver's Assault. If you just think, okay, activate Lightweaver's, target that, because most other cards in the game say target, then you're not taking advantage of the fact that this card, you don't need to say what you're going to be hitting until it's already hitting it. That's a pretty big thing with that. Same with Luxem Sight, but then also, speaking of timing, one last thing is the new card Striking Illuminance. You can, in fact, activate Striking Illuminance, let the card resolve. Attack cards kind of do their own thing with the effect stack, so if we have, you can't actually have anything else here. So attack cards must be slow speed, and they have to be the only thing at the bottom of the effect stack, basically, to fully resolve properly. So if you activate Striking Illuminance, doesn't matter what else happens, as long as it doesn't get negated. Once this resolves, this is going to go into Intent. And as part of making the actual attack itself, you're going to rest your champion. Now you're in an attack sequence. I'm not going to go fully into depth with that today. That's its own topic. But now that you're in an attack sequence and Striking Illuminance is in Intent, this ability of whenever you reveal a Luxem element card from memory, it gets +1 attack. This ability triggers and resolves while it's in Intent. Pay attention to that, because if you mess up and you activate Striking Illuminance while you're not in an attack, and then you activate Lightweaver's Assault, you don't get that effect at all. You have just lost out on a big source of damage. So make sure you're actually reading those cards, because otherwise, this is a lot of damage. You prepare this, you pay 2 prep counters as part of cost of activating, and then as long as this resolves, go to attack. This is an Intent. On attack trigger on the stack, you can either let the on attack fully resolve, or better yet, don't let the attack trigger resolve, activate Lightweaver's Assault, put some cards down. Let's say these are actually Luxem. If all 4 of these were Luxem cards, you reveal them off the Lightweaver's Assault, and let's just say you have 2 random cards sitting there as well, just for the Striking Illuminance. Let's say all in all you have 4 Luxem cards. TTS controls. Then the Lightweaver's Assault would deal 6 damage, because you're just going to reveal everything. Then Striking Illuminance will trigger of whenever you reveal, get +1 attack. So it's going to get +4 attack from that. Then you let this will be fully resolved, deal 6 to wherever. Its own on attack will resolve, reveal the other 4. It's going to get another 4. Well, you reveal all 6, sorry. I keep misspeaking when it comes to the number of cards revealed, because sometimes matters, sometimes doesn't. You will reveal everything. When you reveal the other 4 Luxem cards, it's going to get another +4, so this is going to be hitting in for 12, because you have revealed 4 Luxem cards twice. Plus the 6 damage from Lightweaver's Assault, so that's 18 damage. Whereas if you messed up that timing there and you activate this first, you still get the 6, but you are missing out on an extra 4 damage from the Striking Illuminance trigger. So instead of doing 18 total, it's only 14, which is a pretty big difference over the course of an actual game when you're trying to go for kill. That basically sums up everything I need to say about Luxem and the PreRec, along with the effects stack. If you have any questions for me, you can go ahead and just type them out in the comments. I will respond to basically any comment as soon as I have time. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you like this content. Thank you. Bye.